Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back, or welcome to the official Level 2 podcast, episode 58. My name is Keegan, one half Level 2 Gamers. This is Tom, the other half. How you doing?
I'm good.
I try not to do the William Shatner there.
This is
Keegan, and you are watching the official Level 2 podcast.
Grandioso.
Yeah, it's been a fun day. We're going to play some Overwatches tonight.
We are. I'm really excited.
When you guys see this, it will be live. It'll actually be up on Twitch. You can rewatch the replay, assuming everything
watch all the misery.
Assuming everything goes correctly with the internets. And also, housekeeping before we jump into anything. Sunday, starting at noon Central Standard Time, and you can do a calculation to figure out what time that is. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can go from there to figure out where your time zone is, depending on what you're based. 24-hour live stream for able gamers. We will be playing, you'll be there all 24 hours, right? Weezy will be there all 24 hours.
So.
I'm there all 24 hours.
I'm pretty sure I booked it off, but
you
now
you
that
say that. You say that.
Maybe I didn't. I'll definitely be there, even if I have to come after work and then just stay there.
But anyways, I will be there 24 hours playing video games with some friends to raise money for able gamers.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm off. We got it.
We will also be giving away some keys for some VR and a couple indie games, so that'll be a thing for you. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. We haven't figured that out, but we're going to figure it out.
Likelihood is we're probably going to play the game, give away the key while we're playing the game so you can see what it is, and if you want the key for it, and then
we'll do some sort of
but I don't know,
entry thing. I don't know how we're going to handle that.
We'll figure that part out.
Yep. But yeah, that's going on. Able Gamers is a 501 or 501(c) or whatever the hell it is.
It's charity.
It's a non-profit charity it's a tax write-off essentially that they work with game developers and game or hardware manufacturers to make things accessible to everybody. So a prime example of one thing they worked on recently was they worked with Epic Games to make Fortnite have a colorblind mode, or they make custom controllers for people that have disabilities, whether it's they don't have arms or maybe they can't move their arms or legs or whatever it may be. Or there's some
they're good
real
dudes,
cool ones, and ladies. Their tagline is so everyone can game. So that's going on this Sunday. I hope to see you there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Sunday at noon Central Standard Time, going till March 12th, which is my birthday. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
How old are you?
I was born in 91, so 27.
Did you figure it out?
I did the math.
There you go. He did the math. Hashtag.
I was like, what year is this? 2018?
27, okay. Man. Yep. I feel like just yesterday you were...
26.
2.
You didn't know me then.
Yeah.
I didn't know me then.
Yeah.
I do not. I have
Do you really know you now?
My oldest memory, I know me better than I knew me back then. My oldest memory that I can recollect is being in Canada. I remember that house, but anything California the first time, I was so young that I remember bits and pieces, my sister's school. I remember going into the sliding glass doors and thinking it was cool because you had to walk through 2 sliding glass doors to get in. I also remember our house when you walked in, the way the house was kind of laid out, but not 100%. I remember the staircase being to the left when you first walked in, and I remember Tamara, our live-in babysitter, her bedroom was right to the right when you walked in. Outside of that, I don't remember anything about that house. And our neighbors, Janae and Jerron, I remember going to their house because they had... Have you ever been to somebody who has a runner on the floor? The plastic runner that goes all through their house? I used to think it was the weirdest things. We don't wear shoes in my parents' house. They're you take your shoes off the door most times. You walk around with socks or barefoot. At their house, you took your shoes off, but they also had runners that would go through. So it's just plastic that ran through the house. You didn't bring dirt onto the carpet. And I was just I never understood it.
Yeah,
so it's a thing.
As much as I appreciate people wanting to keep their stuff clean, I also think that stuff looks stupid. And if you buy a carpet, you should enjoy it.
Well, they did. It was only on one part. The main traffic area had the runner through to the kitchen. It wasn't the whole carpet was covered in plastic. So I just remember that, and then I also remember my friend Sean, who is where part of my fear of snakes came from. Going to his house and him having a pet boa over there, and it would get loose every so often. We played games because I can't remember his sister's name, but my sister and his sister were friends too, so we'd go over. He lived right down the street. A lot of fun. Had a community swimming pool. That's about all I remember about California. So quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I remember getting a Frosty the Snowman ice cream maker when I was 4.
Yeah, I don't
That's my earliest memory. It's way less exciting than yours.
I think my earliest. It's funny because this could be a whole topic in itself before we jump in. But my earliest memory is because of a photo. Have you ever noticed? Have you ever had that happen?
No.
Like I don't remember it, but because I've been told about it so many times, I think I remember it. If that makes sense.
It's probably false memory.
So there's a photo with me, and my mom has it. She keeps it in her planner all the time because it's me, my sister, when we're probably. My sister's probably 7, so I'm probably 4, maybe 3 and 6. With my grandpa at the time at the Scoville Zoo in Decatur, Illinois, and they used to have they probably still do have a train. I haven't been there in years, but they had a train that'd go around the zoo that you could ride. And at one point there was a tunnel you go through, and the big thrill was going through the tunnel because Grandpa would whistle going into the tunnel really loudly. Like, do you know those people that whistle like obnoxiously loud? That was him. And we loved him for it. But like I don't know if I remember that because I've been told that, and I remember going to the zoo, going to ride the train with Grandpa, but again I don't know if it's a memory that was implanted in my brain later on or if I actually remember it, if that makes sense. Like, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like weird things like that. Welcome to my life. I've moved. Also, the other thing I have to remember is where I lived to remember a memory. So it's like, okay, what year was that? Where did I live? Got it. That's how my brain works. That's how often I've moved.
X.
Yeah. I've
This is the official Level 2 podcast, episode 58. Hi. We have things to say.
We do. Let's get into our topic, or my topic. And my topic, like I said earlier, we're playing some Overwatches later. You were dead set against Overwatches for the longest time.
Hated it.
And then you got it, and you're like, okay, this isn't bad. And then you got it, and you're like, okay, I'm addicted. And then you got it, and you're like, fuck this.
I think...
or fuck yeah.
I think I deserve credit for changing my mind.
No. I think you deserve credit for being a dumbass and not doing it sooner. I think you're just too stubborn. You're too stubborn on some things when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It wasn't like I hadn't played it. Like I did play it, and I disliked it, and I didn't want to spend $60 on it.
I hated it at launch, too, but I also give it a try sooner. Versus everybody else. I played free weekends, Tom. There's free weekends you can.
Yeah, but then you have to download all the whole
sounds
file
like
and
excuses.
Everything.
That sounds like so. You didn't give it another chance.
Space
I'm
manipulation.
I'm just saying you didn't give it another try. Says the guy who has fucking 400 games downloaded on his hard drive right now.
Yeah.
So that you're never going to
That's why I
play, and you
can't
admitted
afford
the other day.
What?
You admitted the other day on the
shit.
stream.
I have not admitted
that you'll
shit.
probably never play all those games.
I will definitely play
There is a
all of
recording.
them
No, there's a recording
forever.
of you saying you probably won't get to all those games.
Pictures or it didn't
Just
happen.
saying. There's video, so it did happen.
Don't believe it.
I will find the clip and clip it and send it to you and post it on Instagram if I remember. I probably won't remember,
Yeah.
but it does exist.
Doesn't exist.
But no, Overwatch. We finally have a 6-stack together, which
Yep.
is, for those of you who don't know, is
And spares.
6 players playing together. And our buddy Dan joined because Brian pieced early because he was tired. So our buddy Dan joined us last night.
He's an old
when we were
man.
playing. He was crazy good. Like when you play with somebody for the first time, it's always that weird of like when I joined, I used to be part of a Madden league with some people at work. When I joined, it's always like, am I good enough for this? Like, how am I going to fit in? And then fucking Dan comes in, gets 4 play of the games in a row, and destroys his Roadhog.
Yeah,
Like, okay, this
yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
But I also felt like we weren't bad with him. Like, he didn't feel like he's so OP.
No,
felt
not
that?
at all. I
It
think
was a good
it was
balance.
a good balance. I think I mean, the thing about our 6-stack is that we have some players that are super experienced that are very, very good.
James has played
James
like 800
is
hours.
like high level.
And then I think I'm the next highest of the group. I'm level 207 or 8 at this point, and then David's like probably 180 something at this point, and then everybody else I think is under 100 after that.
Yeah, I'm in that category.
Yeah, Bertrand is at 25. So you can play
yeah, thank God. But yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where I am happy to admit that I was wrong about that game, and that after playing it and kind of understanding the balance, which I think is the problem that I had with it originally, was that I didn't understand the balance.
You don't play with teams well. I've said this, and I don't mean
Well,
that.
no,
I don't
play
mean
with
I don't.
teams.
No, I don't mean that in like a negative connotation. But you don't play the roles well when it comes to a game like that.
What do you mean?
You are very much a want to kill shit person.
Yeah.
And I get that. And that's the way you work. But in a game like that, you have to have the balance of the kill shit, the protect shit, and the heal shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's...
But I didn't enjoy that. Is the point that I was making. Like, whilst I'll take that feedback,
Because I'm not trying to say that as a mean.
No,
as a
I know.
mean, but that's
know.
where I think it comes from. Is like you like
I
when you play Call
primarily-
of Duty, you like your KD.
Well, no, not at all. That's not true. My KD, I could give a fuck less about.
You like killing people.
I like flashy shots.
Yeah.
Is what I like. The reason why I like playing Call of Duty, I want to quick scope or headshot or do something.
You want to be the center of attention.
No.
That's how
Doesn't
I
even
am.
matter. Doesn't even matter about that. I just want to do it for myself, and I just want to be like I want to make a sick shot and then just be like, damn, that was good. I feel like, oh, sit down. You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff I like. I like taking a motherfucker out as fast as humanly possible.
And that's me playing Overwatch when it comes to like healing of like, or Zarya when you get that big play, like, oh fuck yeah. We had one the other day where like, actually it might have been last night where I can't remember who said it. We were on Anubis and somebody goes, that point's done. It was you because you're in kill cam.
Yeah.
You're in kill cam. You're like, the point's done. I was like, no, there's 3 of us here. And you're like, really? I was like, yeah, get back on point. This thing does not end until I say it ends.
But it was like when I died, we were like 3 seconds away from losing the point, so I just assumed that it was done.
That's why you don't assume. And I've seen crazy shit happen in Overwatch, and you'll learn as you go along and play more that like until it goes defeat, you're not dead.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's why I primarily have been playing as Widow, is because she's the closest thing to what I'm used to playing as, although I have actually spread my wings a little bit, and I enjoy playing as Diva and Soldier, and as I even had fun with Mei last night, despite her being an ice whore.
You need to watch the Mei short.
I know.
It's pretty good.
Everyone tells me it'll make me like
all the shorts are pretty good.
But yeah, I'm excited to do competitive. I'm a little nervous if I'm honest, because I don't feel like I'm as good as you guys are, and
we've also though played for
I know
hundreds of
and I don't like I get that, I get the reason why, but at the same time, like, I know that if I don't play as well, then I don't get to play with you in competitive.
As long as you're within 1,000 SR, which it only goes up to I think 5,000, so you're probably gonna be good, because as long as you're in mid pack, you're fine. I don't think you're going to end up in bronze.
Okay.
I think you are good enough to not end up in bronze.
Thank you.
If not, we will carry you. No, but like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm excited to play competitive. I also, like, I've played competitive before with David, and I used to have a group that we jumped in with from randos that ended up not becoming randos anymore, where I played competitive with, which is a lot more fun when you have more people on your team. And the weird thing with competitive is it's just that, like, when I play free play, or quick play as I call it, I want to win. You always want to win, but there's some moments where you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna play some random character or do some random thing because I want to play that character.
Yeah.
Versus in competitive, we've been talking back and forth for a while as a group. We have a chat of like, what are we gonna run on what map, on attack, on defense, who plays what characters, what works well, what doesn't work well, how do we make sure that the character selection matches what people want to play versus dictating somebody's going to play this.
You never want to force someone into playing a character they're uncomfortable with.
Yes, but you also want to take into account the composition, because it is important in a game
Absolutely.
like this.
Yeah.
So it was. I think we finally hit a fine balance of that, of like, okay, we know who's good with what, kind of who's going to fall in where. I think where we're going to have potential issues is when we do the switches of like who's going to switch to what. Like we talked about running, so a little behind the scenes here, and we're probably going to run it tonight, is triple tank if we get King's Row, or if we get, what was the other one we ran it on? Legion Tower.
Yeah, triple tank owned Legion.
Yeah,
Tower.
we destroyed on that, and we're going to run that. But I like running Zarya in the triple tank, and normally I'm one of the main supports. So somebody's got to flex into support, and it's like, okay, who's comfortable flexing into support?
And
Who's
I
going
have
to play
to flex
Diva?
into James's shoes usually, because I really enjoy playing Diva, and I'm not the best at Diva, but I can hold my own. And
you don't need to be the best though either. You just need to be able to be better than the other team.
Yeah, which for the most part I am. But you know, James is like top 97% in the world with Diva, and I am not that level, but I can definitely, like, I can hold Diva down for a match. So yeah, so like, but then, you know, you think like, well, we'd be doing so much better if James was on Diva. So there's all this kind of like, I don't know. It's just it's almost stressful, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost stressful trying to patch all this stuff together and make it work, because you know,
And then comms are important.
no one wants to be the person
To let
that
everybody
drags
down.
the team down.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that you run into, is that like, it's so tempting to switch when you're doing poorly, and not stick it out, and not be like.
But there also is that moment where you need to switch because it's not going.
There are but
Like
it's
like
knowing
last
when
night-
to recognize it or communicating it.
Like last night when I was playing as McCree, I was like, I can't hit shit right now. Like I've literally got 540 hero damage, no eliminations. I need to get off this character, and I ended up switching to.
Was that when Bertrand revived you?
Yeah, that's what I go. I'm
To
gonna
get off this character, you died, and then he revived you.
Fuck
Like, no.
you. Come on. But I was like, okay, I need to switch characters. This just isn't working. And like you said, it's a recognition of like, is it not working for that fight or two, or is it not working because you're off? Is it not working because of counter hero? Like all the time when I play Pharah, as soon as I see like a Torbjorn turret, I'm like, this is not going to work unless we have something to take it down before I get there. Or if I'm lucky enough to have something to hide behind while I'm shooting it, because if I shoot it, get out of the way, come back, shoot it, get out of the way, I can take it down.
That is very difficult to manipulate in midair.
Yeah.
For like ducking in and out of cover. So like that's where things like, well, even Widow like comes into play, where like I can duck in and out of cover very well and take out a turret for you, so that it leads.
And that's
the
where
path.
communication comes in.
But
of
then
like,
Torbjorn's probably just going to build it.
of like saying, hey, there's a thing up here. I'm going after. Like last night, I ended up playing Winston on. Was it Dorado? I can't remember what map it was. I played Winston on one of the maps. It might have been Horizon, and all I was doing is jumping in their back line. Like, I would hide behind that. I'd hide up high where they wouldn't see me. They'd come in, and I would jump on, get their Mercy down. It was the Mercy Moira combination going on. So you knock Mercy down. Oh, it was Oasis is what it was. So I'd jump in. I would try to get Mercy. She had protection, so you had to be careful to jump out if I needed to. But you get Mercy down. Once Mercy was down, you got rid of the res, you got rid of a lot of healing, and then Moira, once you got her down, they have no healing, and it's just rolling over the team at that point.
Right.
And it's things like that of like communicating of like, okay, I'm going back line. When I jump in that instance, I need to know where my healers are to jump back out to get to them.
Yeah.
In case I go low, or if I have a health pack nearby. Like there's one time, I wish I was recording because it looked really cool, where I jumped in on them. I was taking damage, and on the main. It's the university point where the point's in the middle, and they have the hole. And I was taking the point, and then I was taking damage, so I ran down to the lower ground where I know there's a health pack. I get the health pack. Bertrand was respawning because I think he'd been killed, and I go, let me know when you guys are back. And somebody said they're back, and I go, coming out of the hole, and I just jump up out of the hole and just land right back on the Mercy and go at it again. And I was like, that was fun. Like, I'm sure they didn't expect a monkey to come out of the hole down there.
Monkey in the hole.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But like, I'm excited because I think we're all fairly competent at the game. I think we have high standards for ourselves. I don't think we're going to be top 10 ever. But I think it's a good combination, and I've said this from many times before. It's a combination of fun and taking it seriously. Because if you're not having fun, there's no point in playing. If you're just being like, like you said, dictating whatever, maybe be this, be that, that's not working. Like, you have to be respectful of people and understanding that something's not working.
A big part of it that I'm actually interested to see how you do in this, because I think by default at this point you've kind of become the IGL. IGL, is in-game leader. So I think by default you've become IGL just because you probably know more about the game than anyone else playing it. Because
James has probably got a little bit more than
James
I do, he doesn't call.
Yeah,
He's told me I'm
James
better
has
shot
a
caller.
different confidence level when it comes to calling shots mid-game, I think, and I think he's perfectly fine to be the guy that like you say, hey James, kill. He's just like, okay, here, bomb. But I think that you have a better game sense in terms of like, okay, we need this person there and this person here, and you have a better overarching vision when it comes to being in the middle of a game. So for competitive, like we don't do a lot of that in quick play. We do a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's what I think would be our weakness is when we're like target this person, because I feel like right now, like when I play Zenyatta, a good thing to do is Zenyatta is
call out discords.
When somebody's discorded, that means shoot the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Granted, you may have your other fights going on, so you can't immediately turn, but when somebody's discorded, you take them down, then it comes to 6v5, you're at the advantage, then I discord the next, you're at a 6v4 next, and go that way. Versus right now, I feel like a lot of times we just go in and just like first person we see, we shoot.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've learned in watching Overwatch League, and I don't know if you watch very many matches yet, but one of the things I've learned from watching them is patient defense is they have, and I don't want to talk too much about like composition.
Do you feel like
structure.
you're camping in patient defense?
No.
That's the thing that bothers me.
No, you're waiting.
Right.
You're waiting for the moment to get them.
I totally get it.
So like,
But at the same time, I'm so used to thinking of that as camping. I know in a MOBA it's different because there's so much more at stake. But I feel like that's always been my problem.
You're doing what gives you the advantage. So an example is as Winston. Winston's gun's not powerful at distance, is good in close range, and he can put the bubble around to protect his team and or.
And he can launch himself pretty far.
And can get out when he needs to.
Yeah.
But with like Dubani on that first point, I use these as Winston stand up at the top left. And I wait for them to come on point or come to the backside, because if they're on point, Winston's gun hits multiple people at once. That's when I'm the most optimal use, is when I'm hitting people, and then you have everybody else come in and clean it up. Versus if we're trying to hold them in the choke down there, which sometimes it works. It all depends on composition. But if you're holding them in the choke down there, if they're all coming up the front or coming through that side door, it's one of those things where like, you can go in and get it, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, because if they're staying together, you're going 1, 2 into a group of 6 versus catching them, essentially. It's called catching the dive, where the dive is coming towards you. You're going to let them do their thing, but then you're going to catch them when they're not.
Then you're going to counter it.
Yeah, and they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So things like that, I've learned of patience. 'Cause before I was like, let's push them back as far as we can. And I've also learned to know when to stop attacking somebody. So like, say they're running back, is it worth trying to kill that person if you know when you turn that corner the rest of the team's going to be right there waiting for you? Like, stupid deaths, I think
that's stuff that I find myself in.
Minimizing stupid deaths will be a bigger help in the long run for our team.
You know, my thing, and I don't know, and maybe you can help me with this right now live. One of the things I've had trouble with Widow specifically is that I'm optimal Widow when I'm nowhere fucking near anyone else.
Yeah,
and
that's the way she should be behind healers
as far back as possible. Yeah. So that's how I usually play her. However, there are moments where, because Widow has a machine gun as well as it's a weak machine gun, but she has one, and you know it's usable. Like you can take a duel and win with her. There's moments where, like, I don't know, the point's being taken, I'm the only one around. Like, I don't know if it's worth maintaining my distance and pot-shotting and hoping for the best, or whether it's better to just try and get as close as I can, jump in and start shooting like a crazy person.
It all depends on where you're at.
I can hold the line.
So if they're about to capture a point, or if, like, say respawns have already started and it wasn't like a team wipe, like they didn't kill 5 of us within 4 seconds, it may be good. And again, a lot of it depends on capture point at that time. So say they've got 1 tick and they have 5 on there, it's going to go real quick. And then maybe you just want to step on to stop it and then grapple hook out of it and get somebody else that'll be quicker. Because you have to remember, if you have a Tracer, if you have a Lucio, people are coming back quickly. But if it's a team wipe and there's, say, 1 tick left, it's not worth it, because at that point it's a losing battle that's already going to be lost.
Right.
But I'm of the mindset, especially on a like assault second point, do whatever you can to stop the point, because obviously it's game over at that point if you lose it. But it all depends on how far the respawns are in. So I a lot of times in my head, and I don't know if you do this, and I don't think a lot of people do, is I will look up at the kill feed and see who died to what and when, and have a counter in my head of like, okay, that person should be back in 10 seconds or 12 seconds.
I don't do that at all.
And it makes a big difference of
that's why you're IGL.
Of awareness. Like,
right.
It's a big difference of awareness of like, okay, so I have my sound barrier, and this point is maybe 10 seconds from being taken. I'll have 3 teammates back in 4 seconds. Is it worth using my sound barrier on those 3 teammates, or should I just regroup and save it for something later? And those are the kinds of things I've learned as I've played to keep awareness, is looking at that kill feed of like, who did what's happening, who got rezzed, especially on the other teams. So like, you could say, one of the things I know we do a lot is we say, so-and-so's down. Well, so-and-so's not down if Mercy rezzes them. That means they're back. So keeping an eye on that feed, because you can see the rezzes as well. So that's, I've learned
calling out enemies as you see them is something I think I'm a fan of. I like that a lot. Like where we have like the very, very, very beginning of the match, if you can see them through the gaps in the doors, great.
So you know what you have coming in.
Yeah, but then like even if you can't, like with the Dubani level or whatever, like where you're basically waiting for them to turn the corner, because most of the time you're on the point. Just like as soon as you see them, because I feel like if I know who I'm up against, I know who to aim for.
So yeah, so if there's like an opposing Widow,
right,
you would go against that Widow versus like somebody else.
The other thing that I was going to bring up, and I kind of feel like I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Yeah, I'm kind of blanking here. Sorry, but yeah, I don't know. It's just there's so much meta thought process going on during a game of Overwatch, which is kind of
that's where
key to it.
And that's where I try. The problem I have with like calling sometimes is I don't know what position people are in.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of like somebody could be. So say it's Lijiang Tower, and we're all together. That's when we're best because we're just fucking deathball at that point. But say it's Hanamura, we're a little bit more spread out. We have to be like, okay, we're going top right, we're going bottom left, we're going up center. Like we have to make that decision and stick to it. I feel like sometimes we don't all stick together, which is good and bad. Because sometimes if like I'm like, hey, we should all go top right, and you say, oh, they have a Zarya, she might have a Graviton. That's okay. Let's maybe split up a little bit. Go once we get to the top right, maybe go the two different directions, learning positioning.
Also, there are certain characters that should not be a part of the bundle.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Widow's one of them, but
Tracer.
I also feel like Sombra and Tracer. Yeah, like I think for that type of a situation,
you want them to turn the team around so you can get them in the back.
Yeah, you want to focus everyone on the people that you're going in there with in the big bundle, and then you want Sombra to go uninvisible behind them and just headshot the fuck out of everything.
There was one the other day. It was second point on Hanamura, and I don't remember.
Such a good point. I don't know why you don't like that. It's such a good point.
It's so annoying because I've been stopped there so many times with just like deadlock. So if you're playing with a group, it's fine. When you're by yourself, it sucks because you can't do anything.
Because you trickle.
Yeah, you have to be a group. But there's
that was the point. Remember your point from my point, because I'll forget it again. Is knowing when to stop and group.
Yes.
Because that's huge. I feel like the trickle is something that just murders teams because you have one or two people that just jump in. 1v5,
1v6, 2v6.
Yeah. And that is why you almost can't play Overwatch without having at least 2 or 3 people with you that you know, because then at least
or
you
just
guys
go in the
can
chat and
group
hopefully
up.
they're in chat.
Or
I've had that happen.
You can use
It's rare.
the emote thing to do group up, but
nobody ever listens to it.
Nobody ever listens to it.
Yeah. That's something I've learned again from a patient standpoint is knowing when to we've lost that fight. We're just continually losing it. Let's bring it back. And that's an awareness thing. And I think both me and James have kind of figured that out of like, okay, we like it's something I don't know if you'll just catch on to at some point of like, okay, we've lost 3 people and the other respawns have happened. So if these people go in, we're just going to do the same thing. It's just being a conveyor belt going on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we need to stop this and go from here.
Yeah.
So
I mean, attacking as a group is your most powerful weapon, but also, like you said, knowing placement and knowing who should be where, when, and why.
Yeah. What I was going to say with placement is I was playing, I think it's Winston. I don't know. I can't remember who I was. I want to say Winston because I think I had the bubble when I did this, but there was something going on the point. No, I was McCree. It was the McCree game. So I don't know who was on the backside that distracted them, but they came in the backside. They all turned around, and then 2 other people came on point from the bottom. So I'm standing up top by myself. I have my ult ready to go, which Deadeye is deadly because you can kill people one shot. So I turned to the point. I know that Diva's distracted by somebody over here, so she's not going to turn around and save her people. So I pull the ult. I take down Mercy which is a big. The healers, Mercy's a big one, and Orisa, and then you just start cleaning up from that point after that. So things like that you got to learn how to do, and you just learn as you go along.
I will say I mean, I'm slowly but surely getting to that level of better game sense, which is what they call that, basically knowing positioning and things like that. But I think you're right. Like if you're running with a 6 stack or you're running with a whole crew, then you know, typically if you're taking competitive seriously on any game, whether it's Overwatch or CS or whatever, you have plays. You have a playbook similar to like an NFL game. Like you're like, okay, this is called this play, and when we do this, you go there, you go there, you go there. So you already know where I am because it's the play that we're playing, but we don't really have that yet because it's fucking hard.
You have to listen to whoever's shot caller as much as that is a thing. And again, I feel weird. I know I do it a lot, but I feel weird doing it because I don't want to be the guys like dictating.
No, you need that though.
But yeah, it's that weird balance of like,
because otherwise everyone just does whatever the fuck they feel like, and that's when you fall out of sync.
And you just got to make sure everybody follows that plan.
Yeah, everyone needs to be able to play their role.
The weird part for me in that role though is like I feel like everybody's got to trust me to make the right call, which is a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, that's like, totally everything lives or dies on you.
Yeah,
and
that's like, okay, let's go this way.
But that's the trust that you get. So, you know, if it doesn't work out, no one's going to be mad at you about it. But at the same time, like, you know, you have to be aware of potential pitfalls and things like that.
And what I do in my head, like the Hanamura point when we had a the Reinhardt shield, and we went backdooring that up and around and all that kind of stuff. Like, you take into account what characters you have with you and who's going to block what where, and maybe I should call out who needs to do what, but like James being Reinhardt having that shield up was like, just follow James in and we'll just go back this way. Back it up the stairs, literally. And then, but if we had a Winston would need to drop bubble or whatever it may be, and calling out who needs to do what in that sequence of events. Because in my head, I know it needs to be done. I picture what's going to happen, assuming
you talk
that is
faster than you think, though.
Yes.
Which is because like I think that is something we run into as well, where like we're kind of we'd be like, okay, everybody ready to pull ults, and then like something will happen, and then it'll fuck up, and then you've already said something, and we, you know, and it's there's plenty of times where I feel like the dominoes have all fallen down. You know?
Yeah, I also feel like it needs to go from not saying "Are you ready?" to just that instinct of doing it. Like there was one,
or even a cue, like a visual cue of like, okay, Diva's gone in, everyone else do your thing.
When Diva, or the other thing is like for me, one of the things, and I'll wrap this up with this thought, but one of the things I always look for when I'm doing an ultimate is who's on the other team that can counter it. So, as Diva is a big one. She can eat ultimates. She can stop ultimates. Like, if you have Zarya, she can eat the Graviton. If you have a Diva Bomb, she can minimize the damage. If you have a Soldier 76, she gets in your face and does the defense matrix. Like, she can stop a lot of ultimates. As Zenyatta and Genji, like David with Dragon Blade, it's like, make sure Zenyatta doesn't have Transcendence, or if you think he does, try and pull it out of him, because that'll negate any damage he does. So that's where knowing kind of ult economy and counters comes in, and in your head being like, okay, I had my ult here. If person B on the other team is doing similar damage, they're going to have their ult at this point, because where we get wiped in general, not just our group, but in general, where I get wiped is when people just go ult at the end, and you're like, whoop, I just got fucking slammed.
They save them up for the last push.
Yeah. So then you have to save yours for that reason, or be smart with how you stack them.
Yeah, I waste too many ults. Well, sometimes I don't feel like you can waste Widow's ult that much, but
Widows and Tracers, I think, are as soon as you get it, you can use it.
Yeah,
that's kind of.
But Diva's ones, I've had some like huge success with it, and I've had other times when I'm like, fuck, that was not worth it. But I also recognize that if my mech is damaged out, then throwing that ult out there, even at the risk of like, you know, not hitting anyone, gets me a fresh mech. So.
Well, the other thing too that you get is you can also zone out people. So. I've used
people will run the fuck away.
Yeah, I've used Deadeye before to zone. Like there was one point we were playing, and I don't think it was with you, but we were about to win it. So I pulled Deadeye because nobody's gonna run in onto the point when there's a McCree ulting, because you're gonna die. And doing it that way, like, okay, let's hold them back this time and then maybe delay them a little bit more. So things like that. But I don't know. I'm excited.
Me too, man.
We'll see
I
how
can't wait. I'm really, really, really pumped for it.
We'll see how this all goes.
I'm sure we're going to have our fair share of blood, sweat, and tears. but
maybe some yelling. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe some yelling. But I think if we all go into it with positive attitude and just do our best, then that's
just a game.
The most we can ask for.
Yep.
We should probably lay those ground rules out before we play.
Yes.
For those of you that were with us on Tuesday night, that are on our team, that are now listening or watching our podcast, you can reference this if we were assholes during any of that time period.
So let's move on.
Go for it.
To our game, which is always, I feel like at this point, Name That Game! Where basically you have 20 questions to guess a game that I have picked out for you from the massive catalog that is video games at this point.
Yeah.
And
of any video game ever made ever.
You have to ask a closed question, and the only thing you cannot ask is what genre. Outside of that, everything else is fair game, and if I can't answer it, it does not count.
I think you're allowed to.
You can ask genres, but you can't say which genre is it.
No, I agree with that one. I was saying like last week when we did Firewatch, or the week before, I think like the fact that I banned you from asking which developer, you can call those audibles.
Yeah.
Like if there's one that you think like if I tell you this, you are 100% gonna get it. Then I think that you're allowed to say like, no, that's too easy.
Campo Santo's only one.
Yeah, that's their only game. So yeah.
Cool. Question number 1.
On which platform did it first come out?
I'm trying to find days here. Sorry. Do you want? I assume you want like earliest. Not doesn't matter if it or North America versus EU. I'll just tell you the earliest platform.
Just platform.
It came out first on Nintendo DS.
Oh, fuck you. You know I've never had a DS ever.
No.
All right. Question number 2. Did it ever release on another platform?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. I should have asked which other ones. I'm an idiot.
You
Okay.
want to ask that question?
Yes. Which other platforms?
It was released on Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, Xbox, and Xbox 360.
Wow. Okay. But it was a DS game.
It was initially released on DS, which kind of surprises me. I did not know this game was on DS, to be fair. That's why I was checking dates. I was like, is that right? But it is.
Can I ask the developer?
Yeah. It's
Who's the developer?
EA.
Oh, fuck. Nice narrowing down there. Nice.
Hey, do you want to know publisher?
No, I'm guessing it's EA. All right, so it started on the DS.
Nintendo DS was first released, and then it came to
And
Game
then it
Boy
came to
Advance,
everything else.
GameCube, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable,
Published by
Xbox, and
EA.
Xbox 360.
Is it a sports game?
No.
All right, so it's a non-EA sports game. That does help to narrow it down, weirdly.
Oh, it tells you what engine on here. I didn't realize.
The engine?
Yeah. I didn't realize Wikipedia had the engine it was made on. It
Interesting.
doesn't probably won't help you at all because it's an acronym, but it's here.
You give away information for free. You should never do that.
I didn't tell you. You just know
Told me it's an
you know it's built on an engine.
But I can think of acronym-based engines.
Okay, name acronym-based engines.
Okay.
Exactly. You're like, it's not Unity.
It's not Unity. It's not fucking the other one.
Unreal.
Yeah. Gosh, damn it! It's not Dice.
Well, it's probably an in-house engine, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
All right, EA game is not a sports game. Is it a racing game?
Yes.
Ah, okay. All right. Because EA does. Although, I don't know how you don't consider racing sports, but okay. Because you're usually the one arguing that point,
Yeah.
not me.
I think sports games and racing games are slightly different because they're different audiences. I think race car drivers are athletes, but I don't think it's considered a sport.
I'll let you get away with it.
So,
What are you driving?
like,
Vehicle.
be more specific. Just like vehicle type.
Yeah.
It's a car.
Okay. So I'm assuming it's Earth-based. Your fucking
Is that a
questions
question?
last week. Is it on a planet?
Is it-
Earth? Are you a human? All right, so it's a racing. God, on a DS first though. That's the part that's throwing me
Yeah.
the fuck
Good luck
off
with
right
this
now.
one.
Yeah.
Good luck with this one.
What the fuck racing game even came out on the DS?
I never owned a DS. Like I said, I didn't even know it was on DS, but it apparently launched on DS.
EA has the Need for Speed franchise, don't they?
Yeah. They have a couple of them, though.
Is it a Need for Speed game?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
At this point, you just name all the Need for Speed games to get it as long
I
as
don't
you know which one
know.
it is.
I don't know them, honestly. Okay. Is it Need for Speed Underground?
No.
Is it a sequel to Need for Speed Underground?
No.
Is it Need for Speed Most Wanted?
Yes.
The first one?
Yes.
Yay!
So, Need for Speed Most Wanted is a racing video game developed by EA Black Box and published by EA Arts. It's the 9th installment of the Need for Speed series. The game featured street racing-oriented gameplay with certain customization options for the Need for Speed from the Need for Speed Underground series. The game is succeeded by Need for Speed Carbon, which serves as a sequel to Most Wanted. It was, you ready for this? Most Wanted was released for Nintendo DS, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, and Game Boy Advance first. Need for Speed was then released for the 7th generation consoles, and 360 had a remake.
So it was released on the DS at the same time as all the
No.
other ones.
Nintendo DS launch was November 11th, 2005. The Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Microsoft Windows,
Who's on
PlayStation
Game Boy
2,
Advance?
PlayStation
That's so
Portable,
weird.
and Xbox launch was November 15th, 2005. And then 360 launches was November 25th and November 22nd, respectively.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was hoping I was going to get you
Cool.
with like the big multiple Need for Speed titles, but I was like, fuck.
Nah.
I didn't even think about racing. I was like, once you asked racing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was really a combination of racing and EA, and I was just trying to think of which franchises they owned, and the only one I could remember from.
Yeah, I thought about trying to find a weird one, but it didn't quite work.
No, I worked at. That's fine. It was still pretty tough. Cool.
Yeah, I did not know. What I learned from that was Game Boy Advance.
Game Boy Advance
and
had
PSP.
a Need for Speed game. How fucking weird is that? Bless you, sir.
Whew.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know DS had one. I want to see like a screenshot of this thing on.
Yeah,
DS.
do it. I'll find the gameplay footage of it if I can and have it behind. All right, so that's Name That Game. Let me know if you got it along with me, because that was an interesting one to say the least. Cool. So here is my.
Oh, it is ugly looking. IGN has some Need for Speed Most Wanted.
That's rough,
dude. There's no
I'm definitely
textures.
putting that up. Remind me to put that up.
Tom put that up.
Thanks. So here's my topic for the week, and I tried to be salient with my timing of it, and also because I wanted to use the word salient. But here's the deal.
Graphics comparison. Sorry.
You're good.
It's amazing how
You get sidetracked. I get it.
Look at that. That's not even the same game.
God, the Game Boy Advance one though. Check that out. That's amazing.
It's not even the same game. That's the portable ones. Let's see consoles here. Oh God, so many consoles. Sorry. This is just nuts.
It's not like we're in the middle of a podcast.
I didn't
It's
realize
fine.
how many platforms that this came out on. Like that's the thing. It's just like holy crap. Oh look here, there's stuff here that's not here.
Cool.
Xbox 360 could put signs in that was not in the other versions.
I'm glad. Okay, so I had a couple options this week. We talked about it a little bit. I had a couple options this week for where I wanted to go with my topic. I honestly had written a fluff topic for last week's episode that we never did because you were sick. And it sounds like you might be getting sick this week. So I wrote like a fluff one that I'll probably do on a different time. It's a non-time based topic, but this one jumped to the forefront of my mind when I started reading more and more about it, because initially when this happened, I was like, really? Again? We're going to do this again? Because I'm old enough to remember having had this conversation.
I'm not.
So many fucking times throughout the history of video games and cinema, by the way, that it just, at this point, I'm done having this conversation. So this is going to be my last conversation about this that I ever have.
I don't believe you because it's going to come up again at some point.
If it does, I don't want to talk about it. This is the last time I'm going to talk about it. So you're privy to being the last part of this. So recently, there has been a lot of shootings in America. Most notably, obviously, the recent one was the Florida one. Yeah, with the school kids, 17 kids passed away. And I will preface this by saying, despite my probably at this point obvious political leanings, I'm going to leave politics out of it. This is purely about the video game aspect of it, because obviously we probably have fans of all of the political spectrum, and I don't want to alienate anybody. But I do want to talk about it, and I think that when we have these serious discussions, sometimes that it helps a little bit. So there's a CNN article that came out that says, if a possible mass shooter wants to hone his craft, don't hand him a virtual boot camp. And it's by a guy called Jeremy Bailenson. And he's the author of a thing called Experience on Demand, What Virtual Reality Is, How It Works, and What It Can Do. And he's the founding director of Stanford's Virtual Human Interaction Lab and a professor in the Department of Communication. Now, this guy is obviously no dummy. He's not, just some rando that's coming out there and writing some hate-filled piece or whatever. So in his piece, he talks about how Dick's Sporting Goods came out and they banned the sale of assault rifles in their store. Walmart raised the age of gun buyers to 21. There's been some leeway. There's been some changes to these laws because of the continuing killings that keep going on. And there's at least, and this is from the article, there is at least one documented case of a killer using a first-person shooter game to improve his combat skills. According to The Guardian, the Norwegian shooter Anders Breivik told the court in 2012 that he used a holographic aiming device in the game Call of Duty to develop his target acquisition abilities. Breivik played a two-dimensional game, but virtual reality can take skill acquisition to a new level. Players can look all around the scene instead of just staring at a screen. Handheld devices vibrate to simulate touch. Most importantly, players use their arms and body to engage in actual combat moves instead of just hitting buttons. As a result, the brain's motor system is engaged. Repeated movement while in virtual reality causes changes in brain structure. There's a cited article, which in turn improves performance in the real world. In other words, virtual reality is the ultimate training machine. Which we talked about on Codename Morpheus yesterday, that, you know, there is, like, quite literally, they are using it to train employees of Volkswagen.
And that goes for anything that is good can be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always used the example of, like, the reason we have rockets and jet engines is because of the Nazi Germany. What did they build it for? They built it for war.
Right.
But because of that, we got some cool technology.
Well, the military-industrial complex definitely gave us a whole lot of technology that we now utilize for different things.
Yes.
But the point, I mean, I don't want to say this guy's point is mute, because I think with virtual reality, the conversation at this point has definitely taken a change. Because previously...
There was a disconnect because of the screen.
Yeah, previously, I 100% vehemently disagreed that video games could ever cause a human being to be violent in any way. And I say the same for any entertainment media. I'm using video games because we're a fucking video game show, but if we were a movie talk show or whatever, like, there are documented cases of movies being held accountable for deaths. There's a very sort of, I don't know if popular is the wrong word, but well-known death that occurred in England back in the heyday when I was there. And it was of a small child. His name was Jamie Bulger. And Jamie Bulger was repeatedly, first he was stolen from his parents at, like, a shopping center. And then a group of kids repeatedly beat the crap out of him. They put, like, batteries up his rectum. They tied him to a train track and they let him die. And when they asked the kids about what they'd been doing earlier that day, they said they'd been watching Child's Play 2, or 3, one of those two. And of course, that led to a ban on Child's Play movies in the UK, which has since been lifted because they have showed multiple studies across the years, which is why I thought this argument was dead already, that show that there is no link between violent TV shows, movies, or video games and actual real-life violence, other than the fact that people that enjoy violence might also enjoy violent things. So this is the discussion I wanted to have, basically, with you. I'm kind of, because I know that you have solid points on a lot of things that we talk about here. So, so first of all, science has already kind of proven this to be a bullshit thing in terms of, like, in terms of direct correlation. But I think they kind of are probably willing to bend on the fact that if someone already has a mental instability, that this could definitely be a triggering factor, which that's a point I'm okay with. Like, and I totally think that. And we had this conversation, a couch conversation, me, you, and Jordan talked about mental health issues with VR, like how if you were someone that was already dangerously close to the edge, how playing, let's say, like Bravo Team or Firewall or fucking even Honor and Duty, whatever, in VR is a different kettle of fish to playing it in 2D, and whether that has any variance over it. Now, I definitely don't think that those types of things should be banned from VR. I'm a full believer that art should be allowed to be art regardless of what it is. But I do wonder, you know, where does this conversation stop happening? Like, when do we say, okay, these individuals are mentally ill, and they just so happen to also enjoy these other activities, or do we start saying perhaps these things are pushing mentally ill people over the edge, and then do you censor that then to the causation of 5 to 7 million people that might enjoy it as an art form as opposed to something that triggers them?
So the way I stand on, and I've said this before on the show, is everything is allowed to be made. I will always stand behind that. I'm very much libertarian in that aspect of like everything has a right to be made, whether you agree or disagree with it. I think the Army has the same right as the NRA to make a game about guns, as well as, again, whether I agree or disagree with it, you have white supremacists are allowed to make a game. Those games should have proper warnings, and there should be education. And the question is, how do you educate parents and all this? They don't know. They're so busy, all this kind of stuff. And I think that, like, I know growing up, and I can only speak from personal experience when it comes to this kind of stuff, is my parents knew to a certain extent what I was playing and what I was watching. They didn't know everything, but they also were nosy to a certain extent of like,
why are you killing that hooker, Keegan?
well, yeah, it's like what's going on in this game, like,
right.
And I also played games in a public spot, like I'm not in my bedroom, and I think that's where it makes a big difference. Is like even when my game console, my N64 was in my bedroom, there's nothing on the N64 because Nintendo for the most part is pretty decent when it comes to that kind of stuff. But my Xbox was down in the basement, and that's a public area that people will walk through at all times. And my mom would glance over or send my brother down to see what I was doing, and that's an onus on parents or on people to do that, for at least for kids. The question then with the mentally ill is how do you screen that? How do you do that without it being kind of a, like, I have bipolar disorder. Does that mean I'm not allowed to play certain video games because of that? Like that's where you're trying to do it within a certain extent where you're protecting people, but at the same time you don't want to close off everybody from having access, like you said, to this game. And I think there needs to be more things done around studies with people with mental disorders and video games. And the question you have there is how humane is that with what you're testing, and how do you do it? I feel like I'm a prime example of somebody who copes pretty well with a mental disorder. I have moments where I'm just like, fuck the world. But at that point, I understand that it's not video games that do it to me personally, that put me over the edge. For me, music is definitely one of those things that tip me, if I'm already at that breaking point, to like hit me over the next notch of like, oh, fuck. But it is not the cause of that. There's other things. So I think your statement, and I agree with it. It
feeds into what you're already feeling.
Yes, it feeds it, but it can also have the opposite effect. There's times where, like, I listen to screaming, angry music, and there's times where, like, I'll be, like, pissed off and whatever, and then listen to some Silverstein, my heroin, and come out of it, and I just got my anger out. Like, that's just the way it works. And
when I'm angry, I listen to angry music to make me less angry.
I do a little bit of both.
Opposite?
I do both. Okay. Well, Silverstein, I listen to angry music sometimes. It all depends on where I'm at.
I feel like honestly. It just, like, it settles me.
That's why, so I listen to a lot of Christian music, and that's because it has got the positive themes inside of it, and that does help me. Like, the way into the studio today, I listen to a lot of Skillet. And I remember, like, having this moment probably 10, 15 minutes in the car ride of, like, because I woke up this morning not feeling great. I was tired. I was like, fuck. I wasn't sad or anything. I just felt bleh. And I was listening to this, and I was like, I feel good now. Like, this has helped me kind of get out of whatever funk I had going on initially. And it's not the music getting me out of the funk, but it is the positivity of that.
It's a contributing factor.
Yeah, it's like any environment. If you're in a dumpster fire, or if you're in a dump, you feel different than if you're in a doctor's office, or if you're in your basement playing video games. Like, it's a different feeling, and it's how you set that environment up. But I'm a huge fan. I think the ESRB needs to update some of its things with current times. I think it is a little bit dated right now, and I think they need to have a better way of educating both parents and people buying games of what's inside of them.
Do you think VR is going to be almost needs its own rating system because of how the different level of immersion?
Yes and no. I think they're the same themes. I think what we need within though is, like, right now, if you go to the rating system, it's was it E? They have E10 or something.
E for everyone. They
have. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I get. I don't know if I. Yeah. So it's early childhood, everyone, E10, teen, mature, adult only, and rating pending.
Yeah.
Which rating pending eventually goes away when the game comes out. But I think
otherwise spelling it Keetmarp.
Yes. But I think what they need in there is, on top of those, they have the modifiers, or whatever. What do they call them? They call them content descriptors.
Right.
So your content descriptors include things like references to alcohol, depiction of blood, language, sexual themes, and use of drugs and alcohol, and including, they're adding now, in-game purchases, user interactions, share location, and unrestricted internet. I don't know what that means. Provides product.
Means that probably other people have access to.
Provides access to the internet.
Whatever, yeah.
But I think what they need in there is kind of like levels of that, like a green, yellow, red type thing to go a little bit further. So like, if it says it contains drugs and alcohol, there is a big difference between like
Teenagers smoking a doobie and a heroin addict jacking up.
yeah, or even in the game settings. Like the other thing is like I think setting needs to be an option of like if you're playing to me Bloodborne, I'm never gonna be happy playing Bloodborne. I'm always it's just a depressing game. Just the way it looks, the way it feels. It's a beautiful game, but you also have to keep in mind of again, I'm thinking of people who don't
Vehemently fucking annoyingly hard.
Yes,
but yes.
But what I'm saying, just from an aesthetic standpoint, if you're playing Bloodborne and you have that versus you take that same, I mean, this is gonna be a weird jump, but say Mario, Bloodborne is in a Mario universe, like you would feel happier because of the bright, vibrant colors and all that. And I think there needs to be something further along the lines for education purposes of that.
In terms of setting.
In terms of setting, in terms of how much alcohol, like it, not how much alcohol, but like how it's used in the game. Is it just like present, or do you actively drink? Like there's one scene in the new Kingdom Come Deliverance or whatever it's called, where you drink with a priest and you get drunk and the priest gets drunk, and based on that you then do something else. That's different to me than having a bar scene, because you're actively doing the drinking, or you're actively doing this. And I think
or in GTA getting drunk and then getting in a car.
Yes, like things like that. I think they have to have some sort of like this is what's in here. And I don't know how because the box would be filled with it, but I don't know how you would implement it.
It almost have to be a separate entity altogether. But then the problem is, like, no matter how much labeling you put on things, do the parents ever actually read it?
My parents did.
Your parents might be the exception to the rule in terms of like there are. I
mean, if you bug them enough, they'll get you anything.
They just go, you know, like it's fine, it's whatever. He's used to it. Like he's seen this, that, and the other, and you know that's why you gotta give props to like GameStop employees and stuff that actually do shut down or at least try and explain. And it's kind of funny. There's so many things on Reddit where like there's GameStop employees that talk about how like if their kids come in and they say they want to buy like on GTA whatever, and the employee will be like, you know, if the mother's there and they don't really know what their kid's buying, the employee would be like, hey, did you know there's like a, you know, fully fledged heroin addict sex scene or whatever in this game?
Did you know that you can go to a strip club?
Then and the parents, like in some instances, like I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
In other instances, they're like, thanks for telling me.
And at that point, it's up to the parent.
Right. But that's the question: is like how much of it is nature versus nurture? Like how much of it is like just on the parents to fucking know what their kids are doing, as opposed to the other stuff. But then
I mean, that's your job as a parent.
I do
that's
as well.
The way I look at
but
it.
I think that that's almost a different argument to the mental health thing.
That's what I'm saying. The mental health I think is way trickier, because how do you say, like, do you have to take a test to buy a game?
And your parents might be dead. You might be a 40-year-old person with mental health issues.
Well, like if I were to go in and buy, say I was to go in and buy Call of Duty World War II, and say Call of Duty World War II is considered violent because you're shooting other people.
Violent,
I mean, it's pretty violent in a video game. You're literally in war shooting other people. Do I have to take a test, or do I have to do some sort of screening to get that game? And what does that screening entail? How do you make it so it doesn't discriminate?
You know what? What amazes me about this conversation is the parallels between the mental health gun issue, because it's almost the same
thing.
But obviously, the difference being that video games don't directly contribute to the deaths of other people. That's the indirect nature of them that is the problem. Like, because we're talking about here looking at the mental health part of it, which we definitely, like, I think needs to happen regardless. Like, I think however you feel about guns, the mental health thing needs to be addressed, and it's not being addressed. But also, like, again, trying not to get too political. I'm from England. We don't have guns in England. It's weird for me. I feel uncomfortable around them.
See, being an American, to me,
you're fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
As long the way I stand on it is I'm fine with it as long as it's a gun that's typical for hunting.
Right.
That's my personal stance.
Which is where, which is why we do so well.
Yes.
But I think that like in that terminology of like, okay, mental health versus guns, guns are the actual reason why people die. That's why these things happen. That's why mass shootings happen.
That
you get shot by the gun,
yes.
Right? You don't get shot by GTA.
But GTA can add to the psyche potentially.
Right, and that's the thing is that like, do you
is it desensitizing you to what it is?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
So
and I think that the problem with that is it's such an individual thing.
Yeah.
Like there's things that will disturb me more than you. Like me playing a horror game will fuck me up sometimes. Like an example I'll use is Batman: The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
it's a well-known movie. People love that movie. The Joker in that movie, we can all admit, is one of the best Jokers and one of the most terrifying Jokers at the same time. I have yet to watch that movie again outside of seeing it in IMAX because the Joker gave me nightmares because he would fuck with my head. And I get that's what his character is, but that psychological thing, I'm self-aware to be like, okay, I don't want to go through that again. But if somebody's not, or if somebody feeds into that, how do you do that for a person? Because that may not happen. That may not happen to you. You might have watched it 100 times and have no issue with the Joker. Like, I don't have an issue with the Joker as the character because I love him as I think he's the most fucked up and amazing character ever. But the way he was portrayed and the way that delivery came across hit something with me, and there's no way to hit that same chord with everybody.
Something with Heath Ledger as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's different because he's actually playing the character.
Right. I'm just saying, like, clearly there was an element of disturbia in there.
Yes, that's a different ballgame because he's playing the character. But it does come back to then if you're playing the character in VR,
right?
Is that
I mean, and that's the reason why I bring the conversation up again because, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't think there's a direct causation between video games and movies and violent acts. I do think that potentially people that perform violent acts might feed into, that type of thing. I do think that, like, this guy in the Norwegian court or whatever is full of shit. I don't think that playing Call of Duty helps to make you a better marksman any fucking
and
means.
Again, not to get super political at all with this conversation, but the other aspect of that is we're sending soldiers to war that come back with PTSD.
And we're not doing anything with that. Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do there? Like, it's a real world. The way I kind of look at this as a whole, I guess, is, and we talked earlier about kind of using the gloves to protect the kids, but like, if it happens in the real world, you can't protect your kids at all. Like, I imagine I grew up in the 9/11 era. Like, that's the event that has defined my life, and I know it's defined a lot of people's. But that was the first major event for me. Like, I didn't know the Clinton scandal. Was not aware of that at all. Like, 9/11 was the day or the moment that basically changed my generation and a lot of other people's. But that's the first one for us, and it's the most pinnacle one in my opinion. Is if I did not know about 9/11, we lived in Canada at the time. We were not supposed to be told about it. Like, they're like, oh, it's American news. Like, it's not going to affect us, whatever, which is fair. I mean, nobody's going to go after Canada. Let's be honest.
Have you ever seen the movie Canadian Bacon?
No.
It's so good. It's about America starting a war with Canada.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But, so they weren't going to tell us. They obviously realized it's all over the news. They probably knows.
Did you the teachers here, or who wasn't going to tell you?
The school made a decision.
The teachers.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the decision came from, whether the superintendent or whatever, but the school had made a decision that they weren't going to tell us about it. Because for two reasons. One, again, it didn't really affect us in any way, shape, or form. But it was also that question of, should we open them up to this? Because then you have, again, that mental aspect.
It's a lot more questions.
Yeah. What's going on? They ended up telling us because, like I said, it was all over the news. You had to. But what they did really well is they told us what happened. And they explained, they didn't know why, because at the time it was happening. Nobody really knew what was going on. But one of the things that I think, and I give credit to, like, my parents in this instance, is my mom's always been really good, and I love her to death because of this, of, like, if you have questions about anything, ask me, and I'll give you the best answer I can. If I can't, I'll try and find somebody who can. And 9/11 at the time, I was in 5th grade. So I was young enough to not know what the World Trade Centers were. I found out later on. In my head, what it was, a plane hit a building, and a lot of people died. That's what I knew it as. Obviously, as I got older, I understood what the World Trade Center was, what Al Qaeda was, all these kind of things that have come out and transpired since as I've gained more knowledge. But she didn't want me to be scared of going on airplanes. She didn't want me to be scared of all these different things, and she was trying to keep it innocent enough and not open me up to terrorist groups and all that. She felt at the time I didn't necessarily need to know about that.
Yeah, you don't need to know who the Taliban are to understand.
She wanted, as I got older, we talked more and more about it as I've learned more and more. And I think that's kind of the thing where this comes out. Like, again, I love my mom to death. I just praised her. But when bipolar disorder was the discussion for the longest time, I don't think she believed it, not because she doesn't think it exists. You don't think your kid has it, and that was a tough conversation to have with her. And we've had conversations of like education of like what's going on, what are you taking, what does it do to you, all this kind of stuff, and it's been kind of nice to have that. Oh, look, Dad's calling me. I'll call him back in a second. Speaking of devils, it might be my mom, but it's nice to have that going on of just that ongoing conversation, and I think that's the same thing with this. And again, it sucks because it says you have to say it always comes down to the parents. My parents didn't do, in my opinion, didn't do a good job in this aspect of like I was in my 20s till I figured out that something was chemically wrong and me just not being weird. I mean, I've always been weird, but not.
Do you think it's just denial though?
I think so.
A lot of denial.
And I think that's the scary part is that you don't believe something can happen to you until it happens to you. And I mean, it's
also you don't tend to do anything about it until it happens to you, which I think is something that happens a lot with
like
with the climate, like with guns and stuff. Like there's a lot of again, not bringing politics into it specifically, but there's a lot of politicians that were anti something until it happened to a member of their family, whether it be like an LGBT law or an abortion thing or what, like one of the hot topics, right? And then somehow it occurred to one of their family members or whatever, and then suddenly they have a change of heart over it because they actually get to experience it firsthand. Yeah.
Well, that's like so. A few years ago, we had a bomb threat at my high school, and they locked us down because we didn't know what was going on. We just knew we were in lockdown. They just said it was called active shooter because that's the term they use for it, no matter what it is. But we had a threat going on. They had to shut down the school, and it's one of those moments of like,
excuse me,
you have this feeling of like, oh shit, this can happen. Like you said, firsthand experience, and not everybody's gonna have that. And I think it's very easy to brush off when you don't. Like a fun conversation we've had before is I believe in ghosts. You don't. Because I've seen one.
But I'm more scared of ghosts than any other thing.
Yeah. You just come to my old house.
Like in horror movies
There's ghosts there. Yeah. But that's because, like, I believe I've seen what I believe is a ghost. Like, and that's made me a believer in that kind of
That's a perfect example, actually.
And
ghosts.
and it's just one of those things where, like, you're in denial, and it's show me the proof. And, again, I'm going to bring religion, but it's also people bring all the time with religion of like, how'd you know Jesus did this? I don't know. There's a proof? I don't know. And that's fair. That's a fair argument.
Well, I think also the burden of proof, lies on those making the claim. So if you're out there saying that video games cause this to happen, then prove it.
Yeah.
Like actually do studies and actually go further. And
don't just be
I'm okay with them doing that for VR because it's such a new and scary medium for that reason. I think we've already had the conversation as far as movies and video games go, and I think that needs to stop. But I do see the benefit of having it again for VR, which is primarily what we're talking about.
I don't think the conversation needs to stop. I think the conversation needs to be, instead of it causes it, what can we do to change what we have in place? Because the ESRB is not a government body. It's its own thing. And it also, like enough. I said, I think it needs to be tweaked at this point because times have changed. When that was made, 9/11 hadn't happened. Look at how much airports have changed since 9/11. Like, you used to be able to walk on airplanes without any question. The D.B. Cooper, he walked in with a grenade and a knife and a gun. Like, you can't do that anymore. They will catch you.
They will catch you.
So, but it's because these events happened to then like, okay, we need to rethink what we're doing. Yeah. And how do we go about that? And
now I have to take my fucking shoes off.
Nah, that's why we wear flip flops.
Small price to pay.
Yeah, I will take the taking shoes off thing to make sure there's not something going on.
Yeah, the other thing that I sort of think about a little bit with this is the whole because with the shootings that have been going on, and there's been a lot. There's 18 shootings in
the Vegas
3 months, something like that. Something crazy fucking amount of, and just school shootings, not even including the Vegas one. It's been like 18 shootings in 3 months in 2018, and a lot of them perpetuated by angry white males, and a lot of the other shootings perpetuated by angry white males. And when I think about a lot of the background that domestic terrorists have. It tends to be like militia-based background. It's like people that grew up in, you know, the maybe not a city or...
Well, even it could be anybody.
Like,
it doesn't
absolutely,
matter.
absolutely.
Yeah, it does not matter.
But like profile-wise, currently, that is the majority of shooters that you get are people that are, you know, loner militia types, I will say.
Doesn't matter where they live.
And
it's
then,
just their lifestyle.
Yeah, you're right. And I wonder whether that kind of, whether the narrative of video games and stuff breeds into that at all. Because when you consider like a lot of gamers, a stereotypical gamer, you think about like someone like myself, like slightly overweight, bearded, balding
Play by
dude
yourself
in
in
a
your
basement. Right, exactly. You don't tend to think of the type of person that would actually use a hunting rifle in a forest, or, you know, obviously I'm not saying that like hunters can't enjoy video games. I'm sure they do. Video games are for everybody, which is a beautiful part about why we talk about video games. But I think that there's almost like other lifestyle aspects that go into it when you're looking at what's happening domestically anyway, not necessarily all over the world, but domestically in America, it's almost always like white male Christian shooter. Then again, I'm not saying that that doesn't put a whole group of people at like you're all suspect. I'm just saying it's like that is what's happened. That's physically been proven to be the majority of people that are doing these acts. So when you're looking at the history of their backgrounds and things like that, do you look more at things like ties to militia, ties to gun ownership, ties to family members that have conviction rates, or
I don't think it matters, honestly.
You don't?
No, because I think it could be anybody. Like,
I think in school it could be anybody. I think for the bigger ones that are not school based, like the Aurora, your Sandy Hook, your Las Vegas, your Pulse nightclub, those are lesser so. Like those are almost always a specific profile. But I think for school,
but if you
start
narrowing it down to a profile, you're going to miss the other things going on. So that's the other thing is you don't want to narrow it down too much to that group, because you're like, well, now we're going to miss. So the analogy or the example I'm going to use is, so now a prime example is nobody's going to use an airplane to blow up a building because security's heightened there. Where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere where there's less security. Think about trains. Think about the Metrolink in St. Louis. How much security is on a Metrolink right now?
Not
how
a whole
easy?
lot.
How easy would it be to get some sort of weapon on that thing and cause mayhem?
Yeah.
That's true for most train systems. Like, it's. Yes, I understand. I get the whole, like, this is the pattern going on, and I agree that it's also an individual basis with those patterns, because not every white Christian male is going to go.
Obviously not. Yeah, that's why I said I don't want to paint everything with the same brush, but there is definitely a correlation.
But you don't want to leave out the other ones as well. And the other thing I think I have an issue with a lot of this, and this might be going a little political, is like Phil DeFranco. I love Phil DeFranco because he does not publicize the name of the shooter to give him kind of the credit that they want. I think, and as somebody who has had thoughts before, suicidal thoughts or whatever, why do you do it? It's almost kind of a self-gratifying thing that I'm sure some of these guys, before they do it, they're like, my name's going to be in the paper. I'm going to be known.
Do you think the media has
the
a part to play in this too?
The media, I think, perpetuates that a little bit to a certain extent of like...
I do agree with that. I fucking hated that NRA lady that came out and just started yelling at the media like, oh, you love this shit, because I know why she's saying it. She's trying to turn the blame and flip it on the media for causality, which is not true at all. But I do think there's a part to play in terms of like, you don't want to downplay it. You don't want to be like, because if the media downplays it, if the media doesn't talk about it, it becomes normal.
Yeah.
But I do think the way they talk about it, like talk about the survivors, talk about the heroes, talk about that stuff, and focus on the narrative of like, how do we fix this, as opposed to this is the guy, this is the music he listened to, this is the clothes that he wore. Like that stuff is just like,
that honestly, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, doesn't mean shit in the long scheme of things either, because like you're dealing with, it could be, again, anybody. Doesn't matter what they look like. And if you take a look at everybody, it's been slightly different. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know what you could do. I mean, getting back to the original question of what could you do with something like this, it's really tricky to be able to do it, and there's no
which is why it
answer.
hasn't really been solved to this point.
I think from a under 18 perspective, Which is weird if you look at it, because this ratings stop at 18, other than adult only. Like, maybe do we need anything that's higher than 18? Do we need to have more specifics going on? Like, I always thought it was interesting as somebody who lived in Canada. I don't know if England had the same rating system, but Canada had, like, not for videos, but for movies, it was like you had G, PG, you had then
12, 15, 18.
Yeah.
Same.
And it was just like, it was so divided up, because especially during those years, because those are your puberty years, you're going through a lot of changes, a lot of things are happening, and even above and beyond that, there should be some sort of system that, like, what does R mean? R can mean a lot of things. What does M
I always
mean?
wondered.
M means a lot of
Whenever I
things.
used to watch American movies and I'd see them talk about like an R-rated movie or whatever, I was like, the fuck.
There's actually criteria to what the minimum to be an R-rated movie is.
I think it makes, like, it was so much more obvious for me and you, I guess. Like, you knew that a 12 was going to be like basically a comedy that said the word shit a couple times.
Yes.
And then a 15 was going to be like little bit dodgy,
Maybe
but
some sex
not
in
like
there.
yeah, but not like horrible. And an 18 was going to be like, all right, doors are open, anything's possible.
Yeah. And that's I think it's such a broad thing that you have to do. And I don't think a rating system is the fix of the core issue here, but I think
could definitely be tweaked.
Upgrade to the rating system could help an understanding of what's going in to help prevent. Because I look at it, and this is going to sound really bad when I say it, and I know it's going to sound it's not going to sound the way I mean it. But I look at it as, if you could, what would somebody think of the children? If you could protect the children growing up and making them understand of what they're getting into, and they have a better understanding then, this will eventually become a moot point, because old people will die. Like, that's the way it is, though. It's like with think about any sort of thing that has happened when it comes to change.
No, you're
it
right.
always starts with the younger group and then just works its way up when everybody dies out.
I literally, like, at this point, we are, in my humble opinion, regardless of politics, so fucked as a country that I do think that there's not going to be any meaningful, impactful change in this country until the children control it. And I take myself into account in that. I say that I am not going to be able to affect change, but I think that millennials will affect change.
I don't agree with that, because if you look at any sort of you can make any change.
At the politicians that we have right now.
Yes,
all of them are old, pretty much. Not necessarily like old, but like a lot of them are stalwart, like white-haired dudes or ladies.
But the advantage of the U.S. system over something else is the transfer of peaceful power, which is a lot of countries don't do it.
It's becoming less and less or so, but yeah.
But no, if you look at the transfer of power between the United States and other countries,
not comparing it to like Africa or whatever,
we're
but
still
like,
way better than most countries.
Yeah, no, I know.
And then the election system, I mean, again, we could go into politics, but I think the whole system is broke when it comes to money, and that's where a lot of it stems from.
Yeah.
So.
But then where's the money? Where does it go to?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the issue. But I don't think that's the younger generation thing. That's a money thing. So if old white dude has money and the old white dude gives money to kids
I'm not
saying
young people are immune to the powers of greed at all. But I do think that every aspect of social change that you've seen in the last 10, 20 years has largely been led by younger people.
Yeah.
In a very
it always
good way.
is.
Yeah,
it always is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there won't be any change, because if you look at where we are, if you look at where we've been the last 10 years, we are way different than where we were 10 years ago. Like, it may not be as far as large as you would like, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been things that have changed on both sides, back and forth.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go too political on it, but I think saying there's going to be no change is I'm going to call you out on that, because there will always be some sort of change that is happening, whether you agree or
tweak
disagree.
It to significant change.
I still don't agree with that.
That's fine.
Because it depends on the topic and all that kind of stuff.
But you can disagree. I just think that old white people run the world, and I can't wait till they don't. But all people die in wintertime, so maybe, when the global warming hits and everyone melts, and I joke about that, because there's a song by a band that I like called A, and it's called Old Folks, and the lyrics go, "The old folks are losers, they can't work computers, they die in December time." It's so bad, but it's also slightly true. So I mean, that's it's a tough topic to talk about, obviously, without putting political leanings on the table and without getting, too kind of upset with each other, because we do have opposing views in some of this stuff.
We agree on most things, but we do have stronger opinions on other things.
And it's, that's fine.
But it's the
discourse
the right to respect.
Discourse is the...
What was the phrase? No child left behind? No...
I don't know.
Right to respect. No, right to work. That's what I was thinking of. Right to work, right to respect.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't even know what right to work was. I just remember it being a phrase for a long
I feel
time,
like right to work was like a government mandate for something. But
I have no idea. Yeah, it was, but I have no idea what it was for.
I always see the signs that say right to work, wrong from Missouri.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, but obviously we have differing opinions on some of this stuff, which is why I wanted to talk about it. I think we're at our best when we are having a conversation about something that maybe we don't 100% agree on. So, and I just think it's, at this point in time, this is a heavy news thing. It's something that's cropping up left, right, and center, and I think it's worth discussing. I also think that I want to bring in the Legion on this and actually see if they have any points. So yes, I'm talking to you, dear listener and or viewer. Try, if you can, to be as respectful as possible. If you do want to join this debate in the comments on whatever format it is you're watching or listening to. But if you have points about violence in video games and kind of the discussion that we've had today, or you just want to talk about Overwatch, either way, drop them in the comments. And please, 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 we ask that you're a little bit respectful of it and try not to just like jump down each other's throats. I don't want us to start into a whole war of people. But I do think that it's a conversation worth having, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Cool.
Should have chose the fluff piece maybe, but it's always good.
It's whatever. I think it's funny because obviously we went back and forth there, and people I can't remember what topic it was. We went back and forth, and people were like, "Do you guys hate each other?" Like, no, we're fine. As soon as the camera goes off, it goes back to normal.
Yeah.
So
cool. So that is episode 58 of the Level 2 podcast. This week we talked about our Overwatch competitive play, which is going to be getting started in a couple hours or so here. We're all excited to start that. And then, of course, you'll see the fruits of that on twitch.tv/Level2GamersSTL. So please go and hop over there. And by the way, if you're a YouTube watcher or an audio listener, please do hop over to our Twitch and join or follow or whatever the fuck they're called over there. Follow. Because we need you guys. We need you guys to help us get a better viewing thing on Twitch, because that's kind of been where all of our live streams are going. Yeah. Although I thought we were already didn't we reach that number for affiliate?
I can talk to you about it.
I don't know what's going on.
So it's not a number. It's you have to hit things within a certain time
metrics
frame, and we didn't hit all the metrics within the same month.
Fair enough. Yeah. Either way, thank you again for joining us on the conversation. This is our metacast, so obviously things get a little deeper and weirder in this one than on the other two. You can look back on Wednesday's episode for Indie Please Add Details and yesterday's episode for Codename Morpheus if you want some more specific video game news. And of course, next week there will be no podcast because we're going to be going through a 24-hour live stream for charity in which we will be giving away several keys for games. Please join us. We'd love to see you, and that's going to be on Twitch. So like we said, head over there, follow, and then you'll know when we're going live. Thoughts?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Ready to get some food before we Overwatch.
Yeah, right? We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Things have been shaken for the channel recently. We've had some really great news that it's under the hat, under the business hat. And I don't think these guys have seen the business hat yet. Do you want to show them real fast?
You want to wear the business hat?
I can wear the business hat. I shaved my head today, so I'm I'm balling right now.
I don't know how big your head is compared to the business hat. It's a little too small.
I feel like, now I'm English, right?
No, it'd be a pound if you're English.
Yeah, I guess. But the top hat's pretty baller.
Anyways.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always,
welcome to the second level. Bye.
No game, but they saying welcome to the second level.